Hare Krishna students. So today we will start with visual communication. So visual communication, as the name suggests, it is a communication through visual aids, and it can be described as conveyance of ideas and information in the forms that can be read or looked upon. That means conveyance of ideas, that means exchange of ideas. Now we are exchanging the ideas, but in such a way so that it is visible to us. Okay, and one thing that we should be thinking, that visual communication is completely dependent on vision. That means this particular type of communication is only for people those who are having proper visual functions. That means they can see properly. Visual communication can be or is mainly presented by using two-dimensional images such as signs, drawing, illustration, colors, and so many other things. Now what it does is it explores the idea that a visual message can accompany a text, so that the text that is being used is able to persuade a person or audience. Think about advertisements over here. Okay, billboard advertisements. If you just read through an advertisement, it is not much persuading, but when you see pictures along with what is being said, it will be much more appreciable, and it is more attracting, and it is also going to persuade a person or audience. So therefore this particular visual communication is very much helpful along with some text. Now it can be said that it is a very effective way of passing information. This is why we should always draw pictures along with some questions and answers, because this helps us to better understand that yes, you have understood the topic very nicely. So it passes the information very nicely. Now how can we say that a visual communication that we are doing, how can we evaluate such things? Now the evaluation of a good visual communication design is mainly based on the measuring comprehension by the audience, and there is no personal aesthetic pleasure or artistic pleasure in this, and there are no universally agreed upon templates or principles for beauty and ugliness. When we are talking about visual communication, we cannot call a visual aid ugly, we cannot call a visual aid beautiful, because it is just an aid. That means it is there to help and nothing more. So therefore something that is able to other than pictures and something, sometimes gestures and body languages are also visual communication, because we are using symbols. People those who are deaf and dumb, for them visual communication is the only way to communicate, because they use hand signs and other symbols to communicate and understand what they are saying. So therefore these body languages and gestures are also a part of visual communication. Whenever we are talking about presentation, that means PowerPoint presentation or something, or visual presentation, it usually or actually means to present something through a visual medium, that means in images or texts. So therefore it is up to us to create a proper presentation. Without creating a proper presentation, we won't be able to express our thoughts, express our feelings. So therefore, along with presenting with our voice verbally or orally, if we apply some visual aids, it is going to enhance our verbal communication. So let us move on and check what kind of uh, presentation should we make, or what are the things that our that is going to make our presentation beautiful. So first of all, while preparing a presentation, we must check whether or not the audience is suitable for that kind of presentation. We should avoid some things, such as if we are showing a presentation to class 5. Now if I show a sales presentation to class 5 students, will they be able to understand? So they might understand that what sales is, but when sales figures, graphs, statistics are being shown, they won't be able to understand anything. So while I'm preparing the presentation, we must keep in mind about the content and the content that is, and the part that is intended for. That means for who I am making the presentation, who are the audience. Next, we must use proper fonts, so that whenever it is displayed in, maybe sometimes you don't have a projector, you only have a laptop, maybe a TV screen, so you should keep such kind of fonts as well as font sizes, so that it is visible properly in all types of screens. Making too large fonts or too small fonts may not be suitable for all kind of screens. If you are using a large projector, that time even if you use regular fonts, everything will be enlarged. So for that it is okay. But suppose your presentation is going to be shown on small screen, then if we write in regular fonts, then those fonts will be displayed in diminished form or small, so the audience won't be able to see what is there in the presentation, and our purpose of showing the presentation is going to fail. So depending on the type of screen where the presentation is going to be, we must select proper fonts, proper font sizes, proper font colors, and so on. Now we should avoid too much styling, like giving shadows, reflections, and we know that this can be given to presentations, but whenever we are talking about corporate presentations and not educational presentations, we should be staying away from those, because usually corporate presentations are where we present our data, and for presenting the data we usually don't use such kind of reflections and shadows and so many other things. So if it was an educational presentation, we could use to attract the attention of the audience. So therefore these things must be taken into consideration while preparing a presentation. Now what is proper spaces? Just take a look at my presentation. There is not too much clustering around the data. I have just written down few points, not too many points. I have written down few points. We should always avoid clustering the presentation slide with too much of text. Too much of text is only going to create a negative space for us, and whenever negative space is created, we get negative vibes from the audience. The audience are always trying to read through whatever we have written rather than listening to us. So instead of clustering the slides with too much of data, try to keep or try to be to the point on which you are talking on the slide. If required, make more slides so that you can get rid of negative space, means unwanted clusterings. So therefore these things should be kept in mind, that excessive clustering is avoided. Next we have proper illustrations. Whenever you are saying something, suppose your presentation is on coronavirus, uh, spreading of coronavirus, so you would like to use a cluster chart or maybe a line chart to show the rise and fall in number of cases every day. So whatever data you have on screen, we must use proper illustration according to that. And also the next point, these 2 points are more or less similarly attached with each other. We must not use too many graphs. Graphs are good things. Audiences, listeners, they can look at the graphs and understand. But whenever we are presenting them with too much graph, with too much visual aids, sometimes it clusters the screen, it clusters our mind. We are unable to compare two charts or 3 charts or 4 charts at a time. You are showing all the data through charts, you are showing all the data through charts. You may be statistically efficient, but the audience may not be statistically efficient always to understand everything through charts. So always avoid unnecessary illustrations and designs that is not required. Now last but not the least, we should highlight the important messages. Highlight the important points that are there in your presentation. Even if you want, make simple animations regarding them so that it attracts the attention of the audience. So therefore our target to prepare a proper presentation will be fulfilled. If we just need to follow these points. We will be discussing more about creating presentations in the upcoming classes later on during our course. But over here what we must do is that whenever we are preparing a presentation, we should keep in mind that it is suitable for the audience that we have. We should have proper fonts and font sizes. 2, we should avoid too much of clustering. We should use proper illustrations, proper pictures, proper graphs, but we should avoid too many graphs, and we should highlight the important messages. All these points can make up a very good presentation. So therefore this communication or visual communication is just an aid to a verbal communication. Whenever someone is presenting a presentation, that means they are verbally communicating with the audience with the help of visual aid. Hence their oral communication is enhanced by using visual aids. So therefore students, this ends this chapter. I will provide you with question answers along with this. Thank you.